The time is 12 o'clock. Here is the midday news. First, the top stories. Trace seeks more capital votes to cope with urban traffic challenges in 2018. UN worried over 350 million illicit weapons circulating in Nigeria. Governor Mezari asks North not to be afraid over restructuring agitation. ICPC considers reopening corruption charges against 20 former governors. In foreign, US now ready for talks with North Korea without preconditions. And UN warns of rising drug trafficking aiding suicide bombers attacks in West Africa. Good afternoon, I am Chienye Egwuonwu bringing you the news in details shortly. Ogun State Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Agency, TRACE, has asked for an upward review of its capital vote in the proposed 2018 budget by the State House of Assembly. The agency requests for an increase in its capital vote of 173.9 million naira to enable it cope with the rising challenge of traffic management in the state. The corps commander, Chienye made the call while defending the TRACE's 173.9 million naira budgetary allocation before the Assembly's Appropriation and Finance Committee. Egwuonwu describes the budgetary allocation of 7 million naira for the purchase of BMW power bikes, 37.8 million naira for the purchase of 2 units of Toyota Hilux pickup, and 61.9 million naira for 2 units of tow truck as inadequate. The Trace chief explains that the agency in the outgoing 2017 budget was able to access as at last October only 823,500 naira out of the approved 100 million naira capital vote in the 2017 budget. House Finance and Appropriation Chairman Olushola Bankole promised the agency that its request will be considered. Meanwhile, Ogun State government has voted the sum of 1.4 billion naira in the proposed 2018 budget for the purchase of 60 buses for its mass transit program. Also, 240 million naira is voted for the purchase of road signs, traffic and street lights for installation on major roads across the state. Special advisor to the governor on transportation, Benga Okwesanwo, made this known while defending the capital votes of 2 billion naira of Ogun State Bureau of Transport in the proposed 2018 budget before the Appropriation and Finance Committee of the State House of Assembly. Okwesanwo says the state government is engaging private operators to increase the number of new buses in the state. United Nations has expressed concern over the influx of illicit small arms and light weapons into Nigeria. According to the UN, over 350 million naira or 500 million of such weapons were circulating in West Africa in Nigeria. Director of UN Regional Center for Peace and Disarmament in Africa, Ansem Yabori, made this known in Abuja at a workshop. The illicit weapons are from the crisis-ridden Mali and Libya, as well as the Niger Delta and Northeast regions. The UN director says the illicit weapons circulating in Nigeria are in the hands of unauthorized people, threatening national security. Stakeholders in the education sector have called for the participation of all students' alumni associations in the funding of the primary and secondary schools in Nigeria. The Vice Chancellor Tai Sholari University of Education, Ijalun, Professor Yemisi Obilade, delivering a keynote address at the maiden convocation of Assembly of All Students Alumni Associations in Abeokuta, says education sector can no longer be considered to be the exclusive preserve of government at all levels. Speaking on the topic, needs assessment of our public primary and secondary schools, Obilade asks all stakeholders, especially the All Students Alumni Associations, to team up in addressing the issue. Head of DFID Lagos Office and Southwest Regional Coordinator, Mr. David Ukago, asked stakeholders to take advantage of the diaspora network to woo foreign investors to assist in funding the sector. Ogun State government says the surest way to address the challenges facing the education is to efficiently harness the opportunities of the Old Students Alumni Associations. The managing trustee of the initiative, Mr. Adebowale Thompson, says the sector, especially in the southwest, requires urgent intervention and support for its revival from the primary school levels, especially in the areas of funding, infrastructural development, capacity building, among others. In attendance were Education, Science and Technology Commissioner Mrs. Modupe Mujata, as Old Students Associations from Southwest States, ANCOPS, Option, Boy Scout, Red Cross, among others. Governor Aminu Mezari of Katsina State has asked the northern leaders not to be afraid of the agitation for the restructuring of the country being demanded for by the leaders in the southern geopolitical zones. Mezari, a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, made the plea at a retreat of the northern senators on restructuring and security in Katsina. North, according to the governor, must not be afraid of restructuring because the region have abundant resources that are waiting to be exploited. Mezari says the missing link in the North is the absence of quality leadership to mobilize the resources for the effective development of the North. Senate President Bukola Saraki has been ordered by an appeal court in Abuja to return to the Code of Conduct Tribunal to face trial for false declaration of assets. The tribunal last June 14 had upheld the senator's no-case submission over the 18-count charge of false assets declaration, discharged and acquitted him. But a three-member panel of appeal court dismissed only 13 out of the 18 charges and ordered him to return to the Code of Conduct Tribunal to face 3 charges of false assets declaration. The appellate court panel, in its ruling, says the prosecution has been able to establish a prima facie case on 3 of the 18-count charges. One of the 3-count charges, the Senate President will face a fresh trial in his failure to declare his alleged purchase of a house in Ikoyi, Lagos. Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission (ICPC) is considering reopening the case files of 20 former state governors indicted for official corruption in 2008. The agency acting chairman Abdullahi Bako, who gives this indication at a news conference in Abuja, says the case files were shelved because of legal and financial problems. He explains that the Office of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, which is supposed to set up an independent panel to prosecute the case, had no fund for the assignment. The ICPC chairman also says the agency is awaiting directive from the presidency on what to do with the assets that were recovered from looters still in its disposal. You're still listening to the Midday News on Rock City 101.9 FM. Up next, we bring you foreign, business and sports news. Please do stay with us. Now in foreign, the US says it is ready to talk anytime with North Korea without preconditions. Speaking at the Atlantic Council Policy Forum, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who made this known, appeared to shift the US position away from previous demands that the North Korea must disarm before any talks can be held. But hours later, the White House said President Donald Trump's views on North Korea had not changed. Separately, the UN's political chief, Jeffrey Feldman, who recently visited Pyongyang, told reporters that North Korean officials felt it was important to prevent war. Diplomatic relations between the US and North Korea have been strained by recent North Korean nuclear and missile tests and by a war of words between US President Donald Trump and North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. The UN has warned of a rise in trafficking of the synthetic opioid tramadol across West Africa, as one official revealed it is being found in the pockets of suicide bombers. The UN's Office on Drugs and Crime said seizures of the drug have been skyrocketed since 2013 from 300 kilograms to more than 3 tons a year. In September, 3 million pills in UN-logoed boxes were found in Niger. The opioid is known to be popular with Islamist militants Boko Haram. The pills, which can be legally prescribed as painkillers, are thought to be used to calm the would-be attackers, with The Guardian previously reporting the terrorist group stuff it into dates, which they then feed to children before sending them to their deaths. Some 600,000 pills bound for the group were seized on the Nigerian-Cameroon border in August. Pierre Lapag, the UNODC's West and Central Africa representative, warned the situation could not be allowed to get any further out of control as it continues to undermine global security. Next is the business news. Members of National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) are to undergo training in farming to reduce their dependence on salaried jobs. The training will take place at the NYSC farm settlements, which have been rehabilitated in the country's 6 geopolitical zones. NYSC Director General Brigadier General Sule Kazaure announces the program during his visit to members of the 2017 Batch B stream at the NYSC orientation camp in Wailo in Bauchi State. Kazaure says it is now glaring that government and non-governmental organizations could no longer provide jobs to all those graduating from universities and polytechnics. He also explains that facilities will be provided for training at the NYSC farm settlements for youth coppers who are interested in farming. Finally, in the midday news is the sports news. Nigeria's Super Eagles have become the latest victims of the FIFA hammer after the country got sanctioned by FIFA for fielding an ineligible player in the final game of the 2018 World Cup qualifier against the Desert Foxes of Algeria. In a statement released by the World Football Governing Body on Tuesday evening, the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF) has been sanctioned for fielding an ineligible player in the match between Algeria and Nigeria on the 10th of November 2017. The match, according to FIFA, is declared to be forfeited and awarded 3-0 in favor of Algeria, with the NFF also receiving a fine of 6,000 Swiss francs. According to FIFA, the sanction relates to the player Abdullahi Shehu failing to serve the automatic 1-match suspension, which was imposed on him as a result of receiving a caution in 2 separate matches of the same competition. FIFA, however, says the sanction bears no impact on the final result of the preliminary competition for the FIFA World Cup, since Nigeria had already qualified and Algeria was eliminated before the match took place. That was the midday news, and just before we go, the major stories once again. Trace seek more capital votes to cope with urban traffic challenges in 2018. UN worried over 350 million illicit weapons circulating in Nigeria. Governor Mezari asked North not to be afraid over restructuring agitation. And ICPC consider reopening corruption charges against 20 former governors. In foreign, we also reported the US now ready for talks with North Korea without preconditions. And UN blamed rise in suicide bombings in West Africa on drug trafficking. For more stories and to listen to us live, please log on to our website www.rockcityfmradio.com/live. Thank you very much for listening. I am Chienye. Good afternoon.